All right. So, for the audience that doesn't know you, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, guys. I'm Gui Trestini, as known as Gracie Barra as Professor Gui. I own Gracie Barra Surface Paradise here in Gold Coast, Australia. Uh, and yeah, been training jiu-jitsu for a couple of years. I think we're gonna go through this during the podcast. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Let's rock and roll.
No problem, man. Okay, so I was looking through your Instagram, and do you do modeling at all? Because,
I also do, man.
yeah.
I also do. My journey is my first degree. I'm an accountant, and I used to work in big companies such as IBM Computers back in Brazil. But I was trained jiu-jitsu, my whole life. I started in judo when I was 9 years old. At 12 years old, I changed to jiu-jitsu, trained for a little while, stopped when I was in the university and stuff like that, and then got back on my early 20s and haven't stopped since then. But as I left the big companies back in Brazil, working as an accountant, as I said, I studied acting. I started doing modeling as well, and did a couple of TV shows, and that's why it helps me to have some good following as well on the social medias. And still here in Australia, sometimes I still do a couple of modeling or TV stuff, but my main focus is my club now. Is jiu-jitsu. Is I spread these beautiful martial arts for everybody.
That's awesome, man. And because for me, the last time I did things like jujitsu, because when I was younger, right? This is going way back. I used to do mixed martial arts, right? And part of that was obviously jujitsu, grappling. Then years go by, and then I started doing wrestling, which is different than jujitsu. But I started doing wrestling, and I liked it. I wasn't terribly good at it. I got better, but I ended up quitting. So when it came to how long have you been doing jujitsu for? Right? I guess.
Myself, as I told you, I started at 12. I'm 33 now, and training for about a year and a half. But then teenager, like you change your priorities and stuff. And then at 18, at 17 to 18, I started my university. Then when I was 2021, I got back to jiu-jitsu and haven't stopped since then. So if you count all the time in judo, then my first jiu-jitsu years, and then when I come back in, let's say 2010, 2011, up to now, it's been good 15, 16 years, I would say. So yeah, it's been
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Did you ever experiment with any other type of martial arts, right? Like for me, like wrestling, for example, or anything of that sort? Or was it purely jujitsu all the way through?
Now, I first started in judo. In Brazil, judo is quite big, like we have like that uh, uh, oriental side, that martial side in judo in Brazil. Judo in Brazil back in the days was really big. So so my first experience with martial arts was at 9 years old in judo. I trained judo for about 1 year and a half. I got my gray belt. I still was a kid, and then at 12 years old, when I met jiu-jitsu, fell in love and haven't changed. I did a bit of striking. I did a bit of boxing. I did a bit of MMA, especially when I was blue and purple belt. I had the opportunity to do MMA class. I did a couple, and and for about 1 year, I did also capoeira. Was right after the jiu-jitsu class in the same club I used to train, and did a bit of capoeira. So had an idea of all the martial arts, such as I said, judo, capoeira, boxing, and a bit of MMA. But my main focus is always the hugs, the cuddles, jiu-jitsu. The grappling is what has my heart.
Yeah, I had a friend, he doesn't live in my town anymore, but he was Brazilian, right? And like he was born there, spoke Portuguese, like the whole nine yards. And he did Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I had like two other friends at the same time that did it, right? And they both said that it was really, really fun. Um, I don't know if they like all of them do it anymore, but he ended up the main kid I'm talking about. he ended up going on to doing like he got like gold medals in wrestling and stuff like that, and he ended up going pretty far in wrestling, like in high school and stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts on people that do that kind of transition between, jujitsu, which is often seen as a little bit more fun, to something like wrestling, which is often seen as more of like a determination or as like a disciplinary type of thing?
I mean, like I think there is a very good connection. Martial arts in general is good. I'm not that guy who's saying, "Oh, jiu-jitsu is the only thing," and I don't like taekwondo or karate or wrestling or anything like that. I think everything you learn in life is valuable. Will bring you something. The connection between wrestling and jiu-jitsu is quite big. Like they focus in grappling as well. They focus in put your back down to the ground. They I would say they train harder than jiu-jitsu people. Like they're much more focused, and especially because talking about Olympic sports, you need to be on the high of the highest level to be able to perform and make to the Olympics if that's your goal. So I think they help much each other. When I have students here who comes with a wrestling background, they do improve quite fast, or they have a really good solid foundations of body conscious, coordination. They know the underhook system, they sprawl, they attack into the legs, driving the fight to the ground. The same as a judo person, I have judo practitioners who come enjoy the club, so they come with one step ahead. So they help each other. There is no way different to say that. No, it's one martial arts, another. Yes, they're different martial arts, but they complement each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like for me, I did do wrestling. I never got that particularly good at it. First year, I was not good at it at all. I had, and this was for a number of reasons. This was like the first physical activity I'd been doing in years. And this is like when I was just starting to work out and things like that. Cardio wasn't that good. I didn't have very good partners. I didn't really care too much about it. Then I got tremendously better in the off season, but then I ended up quitting, or rather leaving, because I just lost passion for it. But when it came to wrestling and like my experience in grappling, I always noticed like a very cardio heavy. Um, it was very, very cardio heavy, right? Like all martial arts. And I always struggled with the cardio, right? And I always had this discussion with my friend, who did wrestling for a little bit, but he does Muay Thai, right? But I always had this discussion where, would it be better to just train purely in terms of just drilling and grappling and just doing the raw matches and moves, or do you think that external training like sprinting and stuff is good, and so like, or like, should you do it in supplement, or should you just drill really, really hard?
Well, let's go. That's a discussion that I have a lot, and I also listen much from people with more experience than I that have been in the game for a long time. Are you based in US? You based in
Yes, I'm
USA?
based in the US.
Where about?
New Jersey.
New Jersey, amazing. I've lived in the US. I live in Florida, in Miami. I did jiu-jitsu, teach jiu-jitsu there as well. My brother lives in California at the moment, in San Francisco, and I was there just last year. And the wrestling culture in US is quite big. You guys are one of the best in the world in wrestling. That's no doubt about that. The American wrestlers. I would say that was the first guys that gave some hard time to jiu-jitsu as well. That could fight more equally. Well, on the talking about the earliest of the MMAs, the Vale Tudo, and then transition to MMA, early UFCs, uh, uh, was martial arts against martial arts, right? And jiu-jitsu was overcoming everybody, and the wrestlers came showing that they know what to do, especially what is the manage to. The wrestling is the spine of the MMA, because you with a good wrestling, you can decide if you want to keep the fight standing or if you want to drive it to the ground. So if you are a good striker but you have a good wrestling, you don't let anyone put you down. If you are good grappling and you want to put the fight to the ground, you're gonna need your wrestling. And then on the floor, you're gonna use your jiu-jitsu. Getting back to you, so I'm a big fan of wrestling, to be really honest, right? Getting back to your question is, a lot of people come here and say, "Oh, I'm not fit to do jiu-jitsu. I'm not fit to do wrestling or whatever. I'll get fit and I'll do jiu-jitsu." Wrong. It's not like that. Paul, so you're saying, Gui, that you don't need to train outside? No, yes, you do. I go to the gym, I run, like I ride a bike, I go for hikes and stuff. I do all the activity. I go to the gym every day, by the way. I do strength and condition. These those helps, this will be a plus, right? But if I could picture for you that way, you take all the supplements in the world, but you don't eat health, you don't have a good shape, right? The supplement is a plus. You need to eat health, you need to train and take supplements, then you're gonna achieve a nice shape. You're gonna be healthier, looking good, etc. Same will apply for the martial arts, like so you want to train jiu-jitsu. A lot of people come in, I'll get fit first and then I'll do jiu-jitsu. No, no. You get fit doing jiu-jitsu. You won't start 100%. You won't start doing the class and then 5, 6, 7 rounds in the end because you won't be able to keep it up. You're going to feel tired. How are we going to structure nowadays with a curriculum? You're going to do your warm up. You're going to do the normal class where you're going to pass through techniques and drills with kind of low resistance, 40% resistance, you know. Then after a couple of months, you have some experience, you're going to start doing your rounds. A smart teacher, from my point of view, he'll get yourself as a lower belt and partner you up with a higher belt with no ego, a guy who is there keen to help you improve your pace. Hey, you're using too much strength here. Place your hand that way, position your body that way. And training, you're doing one round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, feeling good. You're going to start doing 2 rounds. You're going to feel more tired. When you start feeling good, you're going to start doing 3 rounds and 4, and then you get the card. People ask me, Professor, then how can you do 6 rounds in a row, super intense, and you don't get tired? I said, listen, I get tired, but it's different than getting exhausted, dying, because I'm not using 100% strength. I'm using 100% technique, or as much as I can, right? Jiu-jitsu is not here. Jiu-jitsu is here, right? As well as wrestling. That is the physical part. Of course, being athletic, you're a guy who has a swimming background. You're a guy who runs, go to the gym. It will all help you. It will all prevent injuries. But the fitness for the specific martial arts, you get doing that martial art. For example, I'm very fit for jiu-jitsu. I do 10 rounds here now if I want. But if I try to run a marathon, 42 kilometers, I won't keep it up because it's a totally different fitness. So, I'll do sprints to help me. Yes, it will help. But instead of doing sprints, you better do, let's say, 3 rounds at the gym, one a bit more intense. You're getting tired, still keep moving with a low intense, but you start getting used to the fitness for jiu-jitsu. Strength and condition is important. I'm a big fan of it, going to the gym, doing strength condition. You can see on my Instagram how much I do train as well to complement my performance. But you need to put your ass on the mat, face the challenge, get help, train a little bit tired, breathe in, rest a little bit, go again, and that's how we're going to improve your side of your jiu-jitsu fitness, your wrestling fitness, your judo fitness. You know what I mean? So the human body is super adaptable. See those people who runs a ultra marathon, 100 kilometers. They don't wake up today and tomorrow they're running a ultra marathon. They get ready for it. They start and take 2, 3 years until they get ready to run that ultra marathon. Let's say same will be for wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, whatever you do. The more you do something, I believe like this, the more you do something, you get better, right? If I drive my car once a week and you drive your car every single day, probably you are a better driver than I because you have more practicing. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And well, there's also your point about jujitsu being, more in your head than rather a physical, strength-based issue, right? There is one part of that I find interesting. There's some people that I've known, right? And I'm talking purely in terms of wrestling now, right? There's been people that I have known that have been not super duper technical, but their strength would be off the charts, or they would be just very, very naturally strong people. And there's cases that I've seen where people that are tremendously strong can lose to someone very, very weak. But then there's also people with very, very good technique that lose to somebody just because they're tremendously strong. And in both cases, like how what would be your, I guess, your response or your thoughts on those circumstances?
Very good question. Very good point. All these things here and questions you are touching base. They are questions that I actually look at much on it, like, and I listen guys like such as Fabio Gurgel, Murilo Bustamante, people who has paved the way for me to be here teaching, like all these people, the legends from the past, right? Uh, if you talk about, for example, wrestling, no gi, jiu-jitsu, right? Submission grappling, and the gi. In a wrestling match or in a no gi, you're gonna get along better or much better, even being a lower belt, with a higher belt. Once you don't have the uniform, don't have the grips, it's hard to set the pace. You're slippery, you're athletic, you're gonna keep moving. So it's much harder to dominate somebody in training just on your shorts, right? Let's say when you put it the gi and you can set the pace, it's much harder. From my perspective, and I think Royce Grace proved this on the early UFCs, technique will beat strength. Such a small guy, skinny dude by 70, 80 kilos, like I said, I think that's 177 pounds, beating a guy's 220 pounds, 230, 250 pounds, using their, he uses techniques against the strength. But when you get two technical persons, and that's why you see on the open weight divisions who in the open weight division, heavyweight, super heavyweight, ultra heavyweight. The weakest guy who has won the open weight division was Ronaldo Jacaré and Fernando Margarida, that were medium heavy divisions, my weight. It's about 88 kilos, right? Why? Because once the techniques they equalize, you need a plus, and the strength will be a plus, right? As I said, I have a Ferrari, you have a Ferrari, the same car. Who's going to win the race? The better drive, because they have a plus. So, in terms of the physical aspects of the same is talking about wrestling or no gi jiu-jitsu, right? Submission. Being athletic, being strong, being explosive, like such as Nicky Rod, American wrestling, who did the transition for MMA grappling. He got along really well. He improved really well because the physical side of it is a contact sport. Is strength, is grappling. It is going to help. There is no. I'm not saying that, man. I go to the gym every day, twice a day. I love going and I like to feel strong. I'm an athletic guy. Like I'm not denying that. I'm not that guy like, oh no, just train jiu-jitsu. Don't go to the gym and you're gonna beat people up. That's not how it works. But a refined athletes with a good amount of techniques, such as Bruno Monfacini, Rafael Mendes, Marcelo Garcia, all these, Robinho Moura, all super skill level, Leozinho Vieira, and you get a monster of 240 pounds, massive, in a one-on-one fight, they will lose. Especially if you're talking about a no-time fight, right? In a one-on-one, a person who knows jiu-jitsu against a dude who doesn't know, there is a fair chance of the dude who doesn't know is going to lose. And that was proven back in the days, as I said, on the early UFCs. Nowadays, it's not martial arts against martial arts. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, judo, taekwondo, karate, they're not trying to prove which one is the most effective anymore. Nowadays, a mixed martial art, everyone knows everything. And then there is a time limit, that people study each other. Then it's another game, it's another sport. But one thing that I always say, and I will keep saying, technique beats strength, you know. But being strong and athletic will always put you one step ahead as well. When you combine strength, size, explosive power, like great cardio plus techniques, then you are Bochecha, Roger Grace, and you are another level.
What are your
No
thoughts
bottom line.
on? It's all good. Yeah. What are your thoughts on in the UFC the usage of grappling as compared to striking, right? Because there are, fighters like Khabib who, are just incredible grapplers and, they win by submissions a lot of times. But then there's other people that, they're just knockout artists and they can just take a guy out in a kick, right? And when it comes to a competition of MMA, when it comes to the UFC, what's better, grappling or striking?
Man, that's like this or this question, right? if you ask me, and as a grappler I am, I will be to the grappling side. If I need to choose just one, or you're gonna be a striker or you're gonna be a grappler, grapple all the time in a one-on-one fight. But I mean, let's just see, fix it here my answer: grappling or striking. If my opponent just knows striking and I just know grappling, I'll beat him up. Because in a one-on-one fight, 90% of the fights end up on the ground. So if the guy doesn't know anything about grappling, I don't know anything about striking. He's a very good striker. I'm a very good grappler. Chances are that I'll manage distance. You can punch me if I'm in on range. If I'm a meter and a half away from you, you don't punch or you don't kick me, right? I short the distance. I put you down. You are a striker on the ground who doesn't know jiu-jitsu, of course. He's a user. He's like putting Mike Tyson on the floor. What he's gonna do? He's a very good puncher, right? It's Mike Tyson. But what he does on the ground nowadays on MMA is not martial arts against. It's not strike against grappling. It's everyone knows everything. If you get Pereira, Alex Poatan Pereira, the light heavyweight champion, who's gonna fight with UFC 300 against Jamal Hill. He's a great striker, that one of the best, right? But he does know jiu-jitsu, So it's a combination of everything. To step in an octagon to fight nowadays, to step there, you need to know Muay Thai, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, or karate, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu, or boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. You see what is common in all of them is you're gonna need to know jiu-jitsu, then wrestling, then one kind of strikes. Jiu-jitsu will be the most important. There is no way you're gonna put yourself on the floor and like, okay, what I do here, I don't know, right? You are with your back on the floor. How you use your kicks, you know what I mean? You need to know jiu-jitsu. Then for me, the most important for me, in my opinion, and from I think that's been proven over the years is jiu-jitsu. Then the second most important, from my point of view, wrestling for sure, because you decide if you want to keep the fight standing or put on the ground. And then one kind of strike. Which one is the best? Is that Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, karate, taekwondo? Then depends. So you see people with different kind of strikes. Michael Venom Page now, great kickboxer, right? Taekwondo guy. Sorry, Taekwondo. And then see Pereira, great kickboxer. And then you see people like the Blasted MMA, for his name, Max Holloway, great boxer. And then you have good karate guys, like Lyoto Machida, Conor McGregor. But all of them, they have one thing in common. They do train wrestling for sure, and they do train jiu-jitsu. Because once they are on the ground, they got to know it, right?
Right. Yeah. So now, away from sports, right? Separately from sports, if you are in a street fight, right? Somebody starts swinging on you. Do you punch back or do you use your knowledge of grappling?
I'm fighting one person, I'm fighting more than one person.
Uno.
One on one?
Yep.
Cool. No doubt, man. If I throw a single punch or a kick, it's just to manage distance, find a way to drop them down the ground, single leg, double leg, Ochigari, or Sotogari, Koshiguruma, any kind of takedown, or looking to engage, putting them down to the ground, and then the fight's over, man. If a guy go to the ground with me in a street fight, unless he's a jiu-jitsu fighter, then it will be a jiu-jitsu fight between me and him. I guarantee you, and I'm not cocky, okay, I'm not the best jiu-jitsu fighter in the world. I'm far from this, but I guarantee he'll be over. In a draw, me and somebody else, he's good on strike, but he doesn't own the ground. I'll manage the distance. When I see the opportunity, I'll short the distance, put him down, and then he'll feel like a kid on the ground, mate. He'll feel like a kid. And I said this yesterday here, I can get 2 or 3 girls from my gym, purple belts, high skill purple belts that I have here, ladies. And if I get a dude, I say, the dude who doesn't know martial arts, of course, they say, hey, mate, try to hit her. She'll put him down, break his arm, or choke him out. I guarantee you. I can bet my money.
Well, what if, hypothetically, right? You have someone that is equal, that is as experienced in striking as you are in grappling, right? How does the fight go?
Listen, when you talk about striking, if they hit you, getting the sweet spot, chin, right here, they have a chance to knock you out, right? What do you do to not get knocked out? Talking about, looks like I'm these guys who like keep living on the past, but I don't. I know how things develop over these. The guy's super skilled at strike. I'm super skilled on the ground. I I know that I'll not short the distance with this guy because in his range he's gonna probably punch me and kick me, right? And he's know what he's doing. I'll manage safe distance, manage safe distance. When I see the opportunity, boom, I am there. Grab their legs, put them down. Then he's striking doesn't help anymore, right? There is no space. You need space to punch, space to kick. You need to be in your stance to punch and kick. As soon as the guy grab you, then nobody he can do anymore. Make sense? I'll trust my grappling over a strike for sure.
Right. Okay, so it
But
comes
it's
down,
good.
yeah.
It's good to know striking too. Okay, I'm not that guy who jiu-jitsu on off. I'm not that guy at all. I love strike. I did strike. I still do. On Saturdays, I put gloves in, MMA gloves. We do a little bit of striking. Against the cage, a little bit of punch and kick and putting down. I actually like the strike. But if you ask me what's better, striking or jiu-jitsu, I'll tell you to watch UFC 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the answer's over there. The answer's over there.
Speaking of the UFC, do you have any personal favorite fighters? Like, do you watch it? Do you have any favorite fighters that you like to root for when they're fighting or that you follow even?
Man, I watch closely, like I'm a big fan of martial art. For me, every time I'm watching a jiu-jitsu competition, UFC, one championship pelad or whatever tournament it is, I'm learning, I'm studying, I see things that I can pass through my students, positions that I do, things that I think they could have done. It's easy to say from outside, but with experience, I've been doing martial art, let's say 20 years. So you identify a lot of things. My favorite fighters, for sure, Charles Oliveira, like nowadays that is still active. I love Charles Oliveira. I love Pereira, that is pure striker, and I'm a massive fan of him. He's getting old now. I had the opportunity to meet him like last month here in Australia, John Jones. For me, he's American, right? But for me, he's the biggest of all time on the modern MMA. For me, he's the GOAT. For me, he by far, John Jones is the GOAT based on the people he beat. Anderson Silva, I'm a massive fan of Fito Belfort. He's not active anymore. But there is some guys that when they will fight, I'll make sure that I watch here. Sometimes I don't like the person, the way they take care of themselves, but I love watching them fight, such as Sean O'Malley. It's great. Islam Makachev, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gates, Tom Aspinall on the heavyweights now. Pereira, as I mentioned before, that is hips. I'll be talking so many names here for you now. I like Rodolfo Vieira. He's a five-time uh, uh, world champion Jiu-Jitsu and is now on the middleweight UFC. So there is a lot of fights that I look up to. If I need to choose just one at the moment, would be definitely Charles Oliveira.
That's a fair choice. And do you
What's your
do
favorite
you
one, sir? What's your favorite one?
what's my favorite MMA fighter?
Yeah.
There's a couple good picks. I like Sean Strickland.
Good.
He's all right.
I like you.
Yeah. Sean Strickland is pretty good. That's the main one that comes to mind because whenever people talk about it, I keep up with Sean Strickland probably the most. Like when it comes to like watching his fights, stuff like that.
And I
Um,
respect a lot of his background, man. Everything he has passing through his life, like this guy could be, bro, definitely a serial killer, bro. Have you heard about his background, his story, all
yeah,
the abuse that suffered, and he still overcome it. And man, I got much respect from him from being able there to still fight. uh, Taking consideration everything he faced in his life was quite sad. And I was very happy when he beat Easy, his eldest, and I was very happy with that.
Well, with Sean, what's funny is that my friend, so my friend that does Muay Thai, right? He originally started saying to me, he's like, George, you have to start watching compilations like these clips of Sean Strickland talking at conferences, and he would always send them to me. Sometimes I would watch, sometimes not, and it would always just be like him saying something really outrageous, and that's where I learned of him from. Then he slowly became more and more known. Then he became the middleweight champion of the world, and then he started going on different shows, different podcasts, and then I really started to listen to like what he was saying beyond that of just like, almost like a comedian, right? Because that's how I was introduced to him, was like just this guy that's like gonna say something really outrageous and funny and
Yeah.
shocking and make the entire audience laugh. But then I started looking more into like what his life was, and he got expelled in ninth grade for a hate crime, right? He was part of like skinhead, like hate crime groups,
His
and I'm
grandfather, his grandfather was a big Nazist, and he taught him to be Nazist, to hate people. He had the symbol of the Nazis in his bedroom as a child, bro. It's
right.
crazy story, man. Like he honestly, and by the way, he won this last fight against Rico Duplessis. Okay, he didn't lose that fight at all. And
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy. Well, his background is crazy, man.
yeah, and well, yeah, like I said, I looked at it all because I was just more curious about him once I started. The most famous one they try on was Theo Vaughn, where he does the interview and he starts crying, and I watched it all, or I watched a good amount of it, where he's talking about his mother. He used to stand around by the kitchen to make sure that his father wouldn't kill his mom, and he would sleep underneath their bed at night to make sure that his dad wouldn't kill his mom. Until it eventually does happen one night. He takes a guitar, he smashes it over his dad's head, and then him and his mom run out and call the cops. Right.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he was so stressed out all the time because of this that he was sleeping underneath their bed or barely sleeping at all, that he started failing in school, in elementary school, and it went on to him in high school where he joins these hate groups, and then his mom, once he gets suspended, decides to bring him to a UFC gym and train him to try and like channel his anger, and
Hmm.
it ended up working, and he's now one of the greatest fighters in the world, and that's if that's not an underdog story, I don't know what is. That's really incredible.
Sports change life, man. Sports change life. Martial arts, especially. Is one on one, build character, build respect, discipline, being part of a community. Sense of belonging, man. That's about a human being, man. We need to belong to something. We need to belong to the rock and roll group, or to the fighting group, or to the music group, or whatever. You want to belong to something. We didn't supposed to be by ourselves in life. So you have your friends because they like the same things as you, the same restaurant, the same shows, same kind of music, or jiu-jitsu or wrestling group. We want to belong in jiu-jitsu, sports in general, and special martial arts. They help people, man. Look at this guy, Sean Strickland. In the beginning, I think like, oh man, this guy sees so much shit. But when I went in deep in his story and saw everything that he passed through, I was like, bro, fuck, this dude has my respect, man. He does have my respect because not everybody would overcome what he did to be where he is, like to achieve what he achieved. So I got much respect for him for sure.
Yeah, and he definitely put his nose to the grindstone. He did it. He did what unfortunately 90% of people, or 95, 97% of people in a situation would never even dream of doing, right? He
Definitely.
built himself up, and that's incredible. And you know, to your point about community, I have seen that where I had on the former head of the New Jersey FBI on my show, right? And he was talking to me about how he used to be a wrestler. And he even said himself, he was like, "Oh, I was terrible at it." But he said that number one, being a wrestler changed his life. And number two, even though he was terrible at it, he spent so much time around his friends and his community and his bros and his whatever, that it developed him and it changed him. He ended up going to West Point, for the army and stuff like that. But it did really change him as a person, made him a lot tougher, as just a high schooler. It really does help you in like every aspect of things you do.
100%, bro. The martial arts builds you for life. Like you start. dealing with pressure circumstances. You need to be calm under those pressure circumstances to be able to make better decisions. This correlates to life, to daily decisions, how you're going to treat your family, your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. So, I mean, I can't speak more highly than as I do from martial art in general. When someone come here to my club or they're moving away, I say, listen, even if you don't want to train here, you're now moving to some other place. Keep training jiu-jitsu, keep doing a martial arts, keep being part of the community. This is really important. And I'm not saying this because I won't be making any money off it, but I just want to see you getting better in life. This is super important. So I speak highly about it because I believe if the world does jiu-jitsu or any martial art, the world would be a better place for sure.
Yeah, I mean, sports in general, they do change a person, like you were saying. They do help the person. They help people to develop friends, a community, a lot of support, people that they would have never originally spoken to, longtime friends, friends that follow them for years and years to come, even outside of the sport, you know, whatever. And it helps people to be better people a lot of times, right? And
100%.
but that's why it also sucks though when people have poor sportsmanship, right? And there was a video, I'm sure that you've seen this video where it's basically the definition of poor sportsmanship, where the kid is a state champion for wrestling, right? And then at the end of the wrestling match, you shake hands and whatever, and they go to shake hands, and then the kid punches him in the face. Have you seen that
I've,
video?
I've seen. And
Yeah.
that's really as well. Because it's a person who doesn't accept the defeat, like, and his ego is so big, but so big that he doesn't he doesn't accept being the loser in that fight. And by the way, they're not losing, man. We say here that I have a reading in my gym saying in jiu-jitsu you never lose. You either win or you learn. You always learn, man. Like what's the problem? You go back then again, you're gonna fight again, and you're gonna better results. But this kind of attitude, in my perspective, is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. You know,
Well, to your point about losing and learning, there's a saying that I came up with that I said to my friend, the same friend that does Muay Thai. I go, because it would, again, like I said, I was not good at wrestling at all, right? Or at least when I started, I got better, but again, I didn't continue with it. So there was a point where, I had lost a match, like I had lost so many matches, but I learned from it, right? And all the mistakes that I made. And I said to my friend, I said to him, I'm like, look, an ounce of experience is worth about a pound of practice. Right.
100%, 100%, man. And people, do you know what happened, man? In deep, no one gives a fuck if you win or if you lose. I go there to teach my students in competitions, and if they overthink, they're like, oh, what they will think if I lose? They will judge me. People be like, oh, I'm shit, I'm not. People don't care, man. If you win, people feel happy for you because they are teammates. Hey, man, how good, bro. Poor night, George. You smashed, brother. You did really well. Very proud of you. And if you lose, man, hey, bro, very proud of you as well. You faced the challenge. Like, let's work hard. You did a mistake on this, but let's work hard at the gym, fix those mistakes, and come back. You know, People won't be later on at home with their wife talking about, oh, George lose today in his wrestling match. They don't care, man. It's like you against you. We suffer much more in mind than in real life, bro. That's the truth, Like so, I think as long as people understand that, and that's why it's good in jiu-jitsu because we fight so much, Like every week, and in a tournament you do 5, 6, 7 fights. We kind of get used to the defeat, Like because you're not gonna win all the time, you know but you're gonna come back next day and fight again, and it's all good, Like, and people are still gonna love you. You're gonna be back Monday at the gym. Everyone's gonna be waiting for you. So I don't see why people stress so much about it. Like it's more their ego talks more about themselves than anyone else.
Well, people think of themselves as it's called the invisible audience. People think of themselves as everybody else is always saying something about them. And maybe that is true. That probably is true to some extent. Everybody, I mean, look, I go to high school, right? Kids are always talking about each other, but it's always like, what does it really matter, right? Because that guy doesn't know what's going on in your life, right? Or maybe he does, but he doesn't understand it, right? Or, you might know what is kind of going on in another person's life, but you probably don't understand it. There's been so many times where, whether it be me, a friend, whatever, you don't, like, you'll make a judgment, and then the next moment you're completely wrong in that judgment, and the person changes or whatever. People are too complicated to sit there and wonder, like, oh, why that guy sucked so much, what a loser, like, it's such a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, and they don't know because they are not in your shoes, man. I always say here, your problem, George, is not bigger than my problems. My problems are not bigger than yours. I'm facing a battle that you don't know anything about. You're facing your battle that I don't know much about. And even if you share with me, I don't know how much this affects you, like, and everyone that has a sad story to tell. I lost my mom when I was young. You probably have faced some challenge that I don't know, and these affect you and build yourself in different ways. But I use those things to make me stronger for life, because like if I use that as an excuse, I'll be always playing the victim. And we are not in this world to play the victim. We are here to thrive, work hard, and you know, chase the success.
Exactly. And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. I just people will always want to sit there and waste their time to make an excuse for themselves, right? People will always want to sit there and say, why did this guy not do that? Why didn't he do this? Why did he do that? And they'll obsess over somebody else's life, and it's meaningless because they don't want to work on themselves a lot of times. Or if you have a problem with somebody else, a lot of times it's because you have a problem with you. The world is not a window, it's a mirror a lot of times, right? So if you're seeing a problem with everybody else in the world, chances are you have a problem with yourself in some way.
Bro, everyone has a problem at certain points. As I saw in the Rocky Balboa's movie, uh, uh, the world is not about like rainbows and butterflies. It's gonna hit you hard, and what matters is how many times you can wake up, stand up, and keep moving forward. That's how you win. You know, I've passed through so much shit in my life. I come from a poor background. I lost my mom when I was 16, and it goes on. But I'm not here to tell you sad stories. Like, I'm here to talk about how life has been good to me in all the aspects, how many connections, how many friends I make along the journey, how much I help people to be better person, how much I teach kids how to protect themselves in their daily lives. Like, yeah, I'm selling healthy to them. I'm selling confidence. I'm selling the ability of them to walk with their head up and being able to express themselves and looking people in the eyes. So if you come here to sell sad stories, like, I don't believe much people are interested in listening that, because they have their sad stories as well. So, like, let's just work for the best, for the good, and make this place a better world.
That's all you can do. You can, but I think that a lot of people, you know, I think in a lot of ways there's some. This is something I've spoken about before, but it's always some sense of laziness too. Again, people don't want to work on themselves, so they'll point out something else. They'll say, and they take complaining as a form of working or getting something done, or because they want to feel sympathy. They want you to relate to them, and
And
it's
they don't take they don't take the advice. They don't take the what you say to them as something for them, like, well, yeah, he's actually right. I'm gonna work on that and I'll improve myself as a person. They take things personal. Oh, he doesn't like me. People nowadays are too soft. Oh, he doesn't like me. He said that. He's not my friend anymore. Dude, come on, man. I'm telling that because I love you, man. I'm telling that because I want you to be better. What you do is not nice. Why don't you change? How can I help you to change, man? I'm not saying that because I don't like you, and like, and like internet make people a lot very soft as well, like, and that is the keyboard warriors, that they say everything they want on the in front of a screen, but they don't say you face to face. So this kind of things sometimes piss me off, and nah, like, don't take things personal, man. Just work hard.
Well, I think there's also too just people in the world that want to sit there and just rain on somebody else's parade. They find some satisfaction, I guess, in saying, "Oh yeah, well this guy sucks." But and this is again something I've said before too, where people will sit here online on the internet, they'll complain about a celebrity or a billionaire or I don't know, member of the royal family or the government, whatever, that doesn't even know that they're talking about them. That probably doesn't even know their name. And they're gonna sit there and they're gonna yell and scream and wail about that person and how bad they are, right? Yet meanwhile, they probably couldn't take even a tenth of the workload. And number two, again, that person that they're complaining about has never even heard of them. And and they have hundreds of billions of dollars. So what do they care? You know?
Don't care what you're saying, bro. And like, do you know what I think sometimes it is in the end of the day? Jealousies, man. Like, people are like, oh, this, whatever, Cristiano Ronaldo, soccer player, he has 20 different cars. Why don't he get his money and donate and do this and that? He actually does those things, but even if he doesn't, bro, get your money and you donate it. Don't tell people what you do with the money or with their life, like, you know, I don't know. People see much more about the others, but they don't see, because we say in Brazil, like, they keep looking to your tail, but they don't look for their own tail. Like, bro, look for your own ass. Do your actions. Forget others. Like, if they do, amazing. If they don't, you're doing your part. But there is a lot of jealousies as well. Like, frustration, so ego, and this is what making a lot of problems in the world, the non-respecting about different cultures and religions, and then people start killing each other, and then in the end of the day, they look and like, why we are killing each other? They don't even know. They don't even know why we are in these wars, like, and it's sad. This is sad.
Right. Well, to your point about like Ronaldo and all these people that go, "Oh, this man has so much money. Why doesn't he do good things with it?" Number one, you don't do good things just so everybody can hear about it if your intention is truly good. And number two, would you do that if you had his money? Right? Like the sad truth is that if okay, I mean just look at the people that win the lottery, right? They win the lottery, they get a million, $20 million, right? And what happens? What do they do with it? Do you see them spending it on, okay, I'm going to buy a house and then I'm going to buy this for my family and then we're all going to be good? No, they buy the biggest house on the market, then they buy,
A
all
nice
of
car,
the then they
and
buy a Lamborghini, and then they buy a yacht, and then they blow it all on blackjack and hookers, and then they're back to where they started. Right.
exactly, right? Exactly. It's the same story all of the world. It's always like that, you know. But when they don't have what they do, they judge the others.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that's also because people they expect themselves to be better in a position of power. That's very true. Because there's a saying that if you truly want to test a man's character, you put him in a position of power,
Give them
right?
power. Yeah, we
You
have
give him
this
a
same
yeah.
saying in Brazil. If you want to see the true call of a person, give them power and give them money. Huh. You see quickly who they are.
Well,
Quickly.
money does not change a person, interestingly. It only amplifies who they are. That was Jordan Belfort. He's the Wolf of Wall Street, the movie. He's the man that it was based off of. He said, he's like, money does not change anything about a person. The only thing it does is amplify, it magnifies. So any insecurity, anything about your personality that is either bad or good, unfortunately mainly bad. Every little thing it amplifies it times a billion.
Amplified. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you you can get along with everything now that you have money.
Right. And I mean, it's a sad truth, but when people are put in positions of power, they do tend to abuse it, right, in some way. And it could be in little ways like, whatever, they help their friend out or something like, oh, you got a parking ticket here, I'll help you out. But unfortunately, it's also a lot more sinister. But in any case, it's people need to be less judgmental. I think that's a good start. People need to work on
Okay.
themselves, stop looking to these celebrities and people that they think are gods, and they because you see these people look at whoever and they think that they're so above them that they're almost not real, and they're just like you,
It's
you
just
know.
a person, and what they do for life, like singing, playing soccer, basketball, gives them a good money, bro. Good on them, like people. I don't know, man, bro. It's not your business. Mind your own business, dude. You know, but they don't.
Yeah, yeah, and again, people don't want to put in the work, so they think that complaining is better, and it's not. you know
Exactly.
all right, I think that's a pretty good place to end off for the interview. Any final words, any advice to people that you would like to give?
Man, first, thank you so much for having me. Like was such a good conversation. Feel honored to be here in your podcast. By the way, how did you find me through the socials? Was that?
On Instagram. I think I'm trying to think of how exactly. I was just looking at like somebody's follower list, and I was trying to look for people to interview, and then I found your page, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll talk to him. And you know what? I ended up having a very good time, and I'm very glad that I ended up talking to you and getting to speak with you. So,
My man, I appreciate a lot. Thank you so much again for having me. Uh, if I could close with a message, is like people minding their own business, leave people, let people live their lives, and get your ass to the mats. Let's train jiu-jitsu or any kind of martial arts. Be part of a good community. Be a good person and spread love around the world. That's the most important. This way, we can all live happier and healthier. That's it.
all right, man. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and then we'll talk a little bit after the show.
All right, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.